Open up here. I'm going to have you start with a process that is really kind of a solo process for you. You'll see there's a little guy who looks like Defiant with the "don't do that" sign over him. What I'd like you to do is write down in that little space where that guy is a list of the reasons why you believe people won't do what you want or need them to do. Just generate a list for the reasons why people aren't doing what you want or need them to do. Do that for me on page number 1 in your handout, please. We'll give you a couple of minutes for this process. Why it is that people won't do what we want and or need them to do. Generating a list. Great. Good job. As you are finishing this process, some of you are still writing. I just want you to also number the list as well, because how many things you have written down is going to kind of play into our next conversation here. The reasons why people won't do what we want and or need them to do. Give it another moment or so. Okay. Wherever you are in the process, I just want to take a little poll of the audience. I'm not going to ask you what you wrote down, but I am curious as to how many things you wrote down. So I'll take kind of a poll of the room. We'll start. How many of you have just one thing? There's one thing on the list, basically, one reason why people won't do what you want them to do, by show of hands. Okay, there's quite a few people that have that. How many people have a list that consists only of 2 things? A list of 2 things, all right, where the numbers are getting a little bigger. 3 things. You have 3 things on your list. Wow, we went up to about 20% of the room there. 4 things. Your list has 4 things on it. Cool. Also, another pretty big crowd. How many of you have 5 things? There are 5 things on that list. Cool. Now, between 3, 4, and 5, we're about 80% of the room so far. How many of you have 6 things on your list? 6 things, okay? Quite a few people. 7. Your list consists of 7 things. All right. We got a lot of variance here. How many of you have 8 things on your list? Wow, there are people that have 8 things on their list, too. We have everything from 1 to 8 so far. Someone has raised their hand. How many of you have more than 8 things on your list? Anyone have more? 1 person, 2 people have, 3 people maybe have more than 8 things on their list. Okay. Now, that's a lot of variance there, isn't it? A lot of different folks have a lot of different numbers in terms of lists of numbers of reasons why people aren't doing what we want them to do. But what if I told you that there are actually 13 different reasons? 13 specifically different reasons why people don't do often what we want or need them to do. Now, if I'm sitting where you're sitting, let me tell you what I might be thinking. Okay, I wrote down, I think the mean number was something like 4, 5, or 6. Most people are in the 4, 5, or 6 range. Well, if I wrote down 5 things, and he just said there's 13 things, then that means I'm missing 8 things because math is not a big deal for me. And if there are 8 things that I'm missing, then that means I also may be missing 8 strategies to deal with those 8 things, which may be why what happened to me during Pathetica. I would have a group of 10 or 11 people on my team. Let's say it's 11 people. 10 of them would do everything I needed them to do, But one person, I just could not, one person. And I remember thinking, I can get everybody else to do what I want them. Everyone else. But you're the only one. And I'd find myself moving quickly to this statement. What is your problem? Does that sound familiar to anybody? Well, based on what we just said, maybe it's not their problem. Maybe they are a part of that list of those other 8 things that I did not have on my list. So maybe there's something for me to be thinking about that I maybe had not embraced quite yet. Okay, so let's talk about this. In fact, we're going to do these start getting a little weirder now. Check this one out. Reason number 6 they aren't doing it is because they think your way won't work. Bingo. A lot of bingos on that one. They just think your way won't work. Now, the strategy for this one may surprise you because it's a two-part strategy. Two-part strategy. The first part of the strategy, believe it or not, is to listen. Listen. Because guess what? They might be right. Now, I know that's hard for some of us to stomach. I know during Pathetica, I would not have embraced that theme much. But I'm going to ask you to just fill in the blanks because you'll feel better. Why do we want to listen? Because, wow, some of y'all still struggling. Can embrace the fact that they may be right. Who's closer to it? And most times they are closer to it. So the first thing is is for you to listen. The second part of the strategy is to give them feedback, a two-part strategy. And we do it in this order for a reason. We listen first because they may actually be giving us a good point. If they make a good point, our feedback needs to acknowledge that. I like the way you said that. I like what you're thinking. That makes sense. I hadn't seen it that way. If, however, you listen and you find out that they're missing some information, your feedback is now different, isn't it? I understand where you're coming from. I'm glad you're thinking it through. Here are the pieces that you may not be aware of. You give the feedback second because you have to listen first. If you reverse these, you'll just tick people off. I think your way won't work. Well, you're wrong about that, and you're wrong about it, and let me tell you why. Now, what you got to say? Well, I don't really need to say anything now because if what I had to say was important, you would have asked me that up front. Everybody following where I'm going? Okay.